You're listening to the Heart of Giving podcast with Art Taylor, powered by bbbgive.org. Here we explore the motivations that form the basis of giving and service. We inspire generosity and celebrate the transformative effects that giving and service have on the human spirit and on community. The conversations featured on the podcast also uncover giving strategies that educate and provide tools to help listeners make impactful gifts of both their time and money. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Heart of Giving podcast, powered by bbbgive.org. Give.org is the nation's standards-based charity rating service and your one-stop source for information on giving and reports on the most asked about charities. I'm Art Taylor, your host, and today I'm with three rising professionals that have the distinction of being former students of mine in the class I teach on ethics in the nonprofit sector in the Masters of Nonprofit Management program at Columbia University. I've asked each of them to join me today because I find them to be truly inspiring people, and you'll want to follow their careers and perhaps join them in their endeavors. Sianni Cabello works as a contractor at the U.S. Department of State, but in her spare time runs a social society which she founded to amplify the voices of young, talented individuals through social media and her extensive Instagram following. She also mentors high school students through her innovative programming to get them information they need to select the college that best fits them. Jayson Council is a nonprofit consultant, having more than 20 years already working in philanthropy and charitable organizations. His practice includes strategy, governance, philanthropy, and diversity, equity, and inclusion, all key to helping organizations achieve more. And Rachel Liu started as a youth dancer and founded a dance company, which is now the largest in the state of Nebraska. I know you'll want to hear her amazing story. So let's start with you, Siani. What is it that led you to focus your career on serving society?
Thank you so much, Art, for that wonderful introduction and amazing question. I think the thing that really started me focusing on serving society was when I noticed the disparity between schools based on geographical locations. I really didn't understand why one person ended up as, in career A and the other person was struggling to make ends meet. I didn't understand that disparity and what happened in those lives. And it really came down to my research. And what I found was that education plays a key role in everything. So, making sure that schools have the equal resources as they all do to give everybody that opportunity. So that's why I started Social Society U and found such a great interest in education policy because at the end of the day, that's where it all really comes down to.
Some people will be surprised to hear that you work at the State Department and still find time to volunteer. How do you manage to do so much?
For me, I feel like God gives everybody a purpose, and I believe that this is mine. I find it interesting. I don't find it as, volunteer work or something that's making me feel bogged down. It feels like I'm doing something that I love. And what really keeps me going is when a student says, like, this really impacted my life, or I really saw myself going into this field, but I didn't know how to get there. And just getting those testimonials back really, really keeps me going.
Well, I know they are too, and I am impressed by how you've used your personal celebrity on social media to give back. Please talk more about how you're using the power of social media for social good.
Thank you. And thank you for even calling it a personal celebrity. I do appreciate that. At the end of the day, again, it's about doing what you love and not letting, society make you think you have to portray your message in this way in order for it to kick. And I think that's what I've been wanting to do is just to use my platform to show students that you can make it, to give them a lot of inspiration and a positive mentor in their lives. So that's how I guess I try to use it for good.
You also have a great interest in supporting high school students who are planning their college journeys. What are some of the ideas you've implemented to support them?
So we've partnered with bigger organizations to just have more of a reach. And some of those organizations include YardCon, which is now an online platform for Black college students to really come in and get the information that they need, internships. And we also partner with a lot of schools down in Atlanta, New York, and hopefully soon DC to really leverage, our playing field and making sure that we're reaching as many students as possible. Last February, we had the chance to go out to Australia and mentor students out there. So it's really just making sure that we're reaching everybody and not feeling that we are, you know, located in one geographical location and we can't go outside of that.
Well, it's fascinating that you mentioned Australia. It seems that when we embark upon missions to achieve more for society, different pathways open up. Tell me about how this Australian connection came about.
It came about in a very peculiar way. I had a friend that told me that this company was flying out nonprofit owners to mentor their students. And at first, I was kind of skeptical. I was like, okay, I don't really think I'm going to, partake in this. I haven't really heard too much about this company. But a few friends and I, who are also nonprofit in the nonprofit arena, decided to go. And it was a beautiful experience. I learned so much about, the culture over there, as well as them learning about ours in America. And just bridging that gap is what I think is important because kids are kids no matter where you go. And all kids need that positive mentor in their lives. So just being able to bridge that gap was beautiful. And I guess that's another thing that keeps me going.
Siani, what do you have to say to others of your generation about devoting time to making the world a better place?
I would say to really, if you want to do something, don't think that you are too young to start. It wasn't my goal to have my nonprofit, right after Columbia, but I decided to do it and it was the best choice ever. If you still can, and you're also never too old to start something either. So if you're 90 years old and you want to go back to school, I hope that you do decide to do that. But I would say use your time for good. Don't get distracted by, social media or to get distracted by what your friends are doing. If this is something that's really on your heart to accomplish and you're doing it for yourself, not for gratification or not for others, I would say go for it.
Thank you, Siani. Jason, you've spent already 20 years supporting mission based organizations. What was it that led you down this path?
Well, thank you for having me, Art. I really appreciate being on this platform with you. I think the key word in that question for me is support. I understood early on as a young person what support looked like. I was able to see very distinct representation of those who had support and those who did not in my neighborhood growing up. And I got to see the power of education and community. So those two pillars and mentoring as well. So I would say those three pillars were the catalysts at a very young age for me to be interested in doing mission-based work. I would say in high school, I had a very interesting experience. My first 2 years, I was at a predominantly white public high school, and I didn't feel the support that I found necessary to nurture academic wherewithal and academic grit. And after my sophomore year, I transferred to a newly formed Black owned and operated private school where I did see what support looked like and what nurturing looked like. And from there, I got to see firsthand just how critical hand to hand community mentoring was and community buy in was. So when I went away to undergrad, I knew the school for me was going to be a historically Black college, and I wanted to go somewhere where I would have an impact. So I went to Virginia State University as an undergrad, and with the intentions of coming home to start a nonprofit organization. While in Petersburg, Virginia, I had an opportunity to work with a very, very undersourced public middle school and began doing some mentoring with some what they deemed as at risk, which I deem as underutilized students. And from there, just like Siani said, it became more of a calling than a profession or a career opportunity. So from doing that work, I knew I wanted to continue my education and I wanted to focus on nonprofit management. So I wanted to get a business acumen. So I studied an MBA program that focused on nonprofit management because I wanted to start a community-based organization and help support other students and other people like me and those who weren't like me, just to make sure that they were equipped to take every opportunity possible by the horns and fully run with it. And I found the nonprofit sector to be the best possible place for that type of work to take place.
Fantastic. Your current work is supporting nonprofits in their planning, strategy, board development, and most contemporary, I would say, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Why are these areas so important to the programs of a charity?
It's a great question, Art. And the interesting thing is with DEI in particular, it did become very contemporary and hotbed. So it's hard for folks who've been frontline for many years to allow that to be the case. So I say that from a place of we've been, when I say we, myself, organizations I've been affiliated with intentionally have been DEI focused for for a substantial amount of time. I'm really glad that that is now something that other organizations, be it nonprofit or for profit, are understanding is crucial for moving forward into an equitable workplace and equitable society. So after 20 years of being in the game, for me, I decided that I wanted to do more influencing of the influencers, and I wanted to work more with the leaders, and I wanted to establish effective support systems that would ensure equitable experiences and opportunity for all, no matter what background, skin complexion, any divisive construct, just to eradicate those. Well, the dream is to eradicate, but at least minimize for now, just to make sure that we are helping our nonprofit leaders and our nonprofit boards have a new radar and a new framework for success as we move forward.
No, it's very important. I know for myself, I've been on numerous calls over the last several months, especially since George Floyd's death.
Yeah,
And many organizations are now looking for ways to further their journey down this path. So
yeah.
your work is going to be very timely and necessary.
Thank you.
Jason, what do we need to bring more people of color into leadership positions in nonprofits?
So I have two young children, 10 and 9, and we watch Shrek a lot. And on Shrek, he famously says, onions have layers, ogres have layers. To me, nonprofits have layers. And in order to make it inclusive, welcoming, and attractive to more people of color, I think we have to start with the top down, from the mission to the board to the senior leadership to the staff. I think the recruitment and onboarding processes are necessary to either be revisited and retooled and readjusted to fit today, to fit a workplace that's more equitable, one that's inclusive, and one that is not inauthentic in doing so. I think in order to attract more people of color, we have to continue to be honest and transparent that we are a work in progress, right? As far as the sector, we have to be vulnerable to say that we didn't get it right the entire time, but we know what we need to do. And we need to be daring and bold in how we move forward. So a lot of time I spend with leaders and boards is on just that. It's on setting the table for a future success. And a future success means people of color at the table.
Jason, what advice do you have for people considering starting a career in nonprofits?
I would say think about what resonates the most with you and find a mission that spells that out. When you're part of the nonprofit sector, you wear your mission as a badge of honor, and it's very clear that that's what you do. So I would encourage any young person to, or any person at all, to think about what mission resonates with them. What is a calling on them? What do they feel their personal purpose in life would contribute to, and match it up that way. And then I would do research in regards to people in the field, potential colleagues, as well as just to do the front work of developing a quality network in the sector.
Great,
Sorry, but find a mentor if possible.
great advice. Rachel, now let's turn to you. Rachel, I will say, in the interest of full disclosure, has been helping me on a project that we're working on at the BBBGive.org organization. to identify and hold up leaders who are pressing forward by collaborating with other organizations. And Rachel has been doing a terrific job with me through these interviews that I have with these leaders. And she's been documenting these interviews into beautiful information for people to come to the website and see. I wanted to just know, Rachel, what you think about this project so far before we get into your work currently and what you've done growing up. I just was curious to see what you might be learning because I know I'm learning a lot from these particular leaders that we've been talking.
I think that it's been a wonderful learning experience for me too. It's also changed the course of my path. In a sense, I started the nonprofit management program at Columbia because I had the intentions of starting my own animal shelter. And but throughout the course, and especially with each transcript that I'm listening to and writing, I'm realizing the importance of collaboration. And we don't necessarily need to start our own organization. So although that's left me with with a bit of uncertainty, I'm looking forward to learning more and honing my path so I can progress in this field.
Well, I will tell you, it's nothing wrong with being uncertain. I think we all are uncertain at times about which direction we should go in. Some people seem to jump right out there and know exactly what they want to do, while others, have to experience life in different ways before they find their path. So I completely understand how this project you're working on could have caused the shift. And if that and the nonprofit management school has also done that to you, then I think it's done you well. Rachel, your early life is one that I think more people really need to understand and learn about. As Siani said earlier, it doesn't matter how old you are to start something that can be transformative for people's lives. And in your case, you were part of the formation of a dance studio and then later a dance company in Nebraska. How did that come about? Where did this interest you have in dance come from? And tell me a little bit about your life in dance and how it's led you to where you are today.
Well, I grew up in the competition dance world, and for those who don't know much about it, it's essentially like the TV show Dance Moms. I don't know if you've watched that. Or to give some context, if you know JoJo Siwa, who's pretty famous now, she actually competed with us every weekend at various different competitions. And if you see where her career has taken her, it's a different sphere of the entertainment industry. So there's either the professional company route or there's a more commercialized route. And while I grew up in the competition dance world, I first came across this nonprofit ballet company route around the age of 9. When I moved into the nonprofit world of ballet, I realized there was so much more to this art form. From the technique to the culture of training, it was so different compared to the nature of competition, and only a professional company provided this level of training. At the time, there was only one company in Nebraska called the Omaha Theater Ballet. I switched from competition to the ballet world, but soon after, they closed down due to financial issues and a lack of funding. And so my mom was very involved at the time, and she was close to a lot of the professional dancers. And one in particular came up to us and said, I want to start my own company, but I don't know where to begin." So we got a bunch of families together, all put our heads together, and decided to start a company. We put together a board, a guild, and a junior guild. So I was in the advanced program at the Omaha Theater Ballet, which consisted of dancers that were mainly 15 to 18, and I was 12 to 13 at the time. So this group of advanced students became part of the junior guild and also Ballet Nebraska 2, which was kind of like a trainee program, and we were a junior company that always performed and trained with a professional company. So I think that the importance of giving was inadvertently drilled into us because our passion depended on it. We would come out during intermission after we performed on stage, and we would sell baked goods, raffle items, flowers that the audience could throw on stage at curtain calls, and signed point shoes. As Ballet Nebraska 2, the junior company and the junior guild, we were so involved because we knew our potential opportunities and training depended on the survival of the company. So from the grassroots level of just involving students with a passion and incorporating them as a junior company with hands-on responsibilities for fundraising, I learned firsthand the importance of philanthropy.
Yeah, you did. And this ballet company continues to shine and grow today. Is that correct?
Yeah, we now have over 30 paid dancers. We started with 10, so it's been wonderful.
Wow, that's amazing. So somehow you got the bite, I guess, to pursue a nonprofit career. I know that you have a history major background, and now you're at Columbia School of Professional Studies, getting your master's in nonprofit management. What was it that led you to say, I need to strengthen my skill set here because I see myself in this field?
Throughout college, I was always volunteering and I was always trying to find ways to be involved with nonprofit organizations. And it wasn't until I came across this program at Columbia that I realized, oh, I could make a career out of this. And so I was also inspired by my childhood because without this company in the Midwest, I definitely wouldn't have gotten the opportunities that I did, given the limited appreciation for ballet at the time. And I know the Midwest still struggles with this. So when we first started the ballet company, we never knew it would grow to this level. We were just coming together to essentially save ballet in Nebraska. And it was because of this introduction into the world of ballet that I was able to discover bigger companies like the Joffrey Ballet in Chicago or San Francisco Ballet and then New York City Ballet. Omaha Theater Ballet really opened my eyes to a myriad of possibilities and opportunities that I never would have come across if it wasn't for that training and education. So I think it's really important that we have that education and that access in smaller towns. And so I think that's part of the reason I also started this program.
Fantastic. So, what would you have to say to younger people who are thinking about starting a career in nonprofits, or maybe they're working in business right now and they're looking for ways to contribute to society in some way?
I would say that it's never too late to switch.
Okay.
I knew nothing about it, and I think that at any age, just like we mentioned before, it's never too late to jump in and learn as much as you can. And if you have a passion for it, find people who have similar interests and put your heads together, because and then fulfill your passions and your dreams.
So, this is going to be our lightning round. And I have a question that I'm going to ask each of you, and I want to see what your answer will be. Try to keep your answer brief, and let's go. So, Siani, the nonprofit sector, will it be better in 10 years? Yes or no, and why?
I would say yes, absolutely. As the world continues to grow and as new issues continue to arise, there's no doubt in my mind that people will step up to the plate and try to solve these problems.
Jason,
In 10 years, the nonprofit sector will be much better. And I tell you why. It'll be better because we've all had an opportunity, unlike ever before, to see the ills of society and what that can look like if it's flamed and opposed to, I would say, not flamed, right? And I think the way to do that is understanding that people now want to contribute in ways that they may have not contributed since the 60s. People no longer want to sit on the sidelines if it's through racial disparity, social injustice, if it's through health, whatever it is. There's so many things happening right now that it's difficult to sit on the sideline and not want to contribute in any capacity. And I think because of that, over the next 10 years, we're going to see a spike in philanthropy, in volunteerism, and people making the switch to the nonprofit sector.
I hope you're right. Rachel,
I agree with Siani. I think people are taking initiative and stepping up to address what they see and what they don't like, and I'm hopeful that we'll continue to do so.
okay, Siani, what do you see as the biggest challenge our society faces today?
The biggest challenge I see society facing in short term is fear. Some people may be afraid to start something new or afraid that they may fail, but taking a risk just proves that you are making steps towards what you really want and steps towards success. And anything that we put our hands to, we should believe that we will be successful if it's coming from a good place.
Jayson, what is the biggest challenge you see right now?
Our biggest challenges are trying to undo systems that are put in place to not benefit the better of society. And when you start to deconstruct and start to dismantle systems, it takes time. I learned throughout my career that impact is incremental. And if you think impact is incremental, then you should really think about how incremental it is to tear down a system. But I think what we see now are people who are interested in taking the steps towards just that. And it's exciting.
Rachel,
I think the biggest challenge would be the decline in the culture of giving. So I think people need to be reminded of the importance of philanthropy.
okay, Siani, do you think we'll be able to solve the problem of fear?
Yes, and I believe that everything starts internally. Just as Rachel said, the art of giving is so important. And that's something that each person needs to, I guess, come to terms with in themselves, as well as overcoming their personal fears so that we can actually go out and be the game changers.
Jayson, will we be able to solve your problem?
I wish I could say yes, but I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but I think that the pre-treatment is taking place, right? The procedure is coming, but there's something called a pre-operation standpoint for society that I think we are at right now. I think we're doing the prep work. And if everything goes well and we can get more people to join all of the movements, I think that we will see that change, and I think that that operation will be successful, and society can face that overhaul.
Rachel?
Absolutely. I think if we continue to emphasize, inspire, and remind people of the importance of giving, we definitely can.
Well, I want to thank all of you for joining me today on the Heart of Giving podcast. And I wish you all tremendous success in whatever it is you decide to do, whether that be to continue doing what you're currently doing or as you evolve and come up with new projects, ideas, and programs. I wish you all success. And you know that we're always here at the Heart of Giving podcast to get the message out about what you're doing, and we consider you part of our family. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
This is the Heart of Giving podcast with Art Taylor. We'll see you in our next episode.
You've just listened to the Heart of Giving podcast with Art Taylor. Be sure to tune in next time for a brand new episode. To listen to our other interviews, visit heartgiving.podbean.com. That's heartgiving.podbean.com. Subscribe to our show on major podcast platforms. Send your comments and ideas to nona@thusmarket.com. That's nona@thusmarket.com. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this podcast are the views and opinions of the guests, not those of the BBB Wise Giving Alliance or program affiliates. This podcast is for information and educational purposes only and is copyrighted with all rights reserved. This podcast is protected by Podbean's terms of service.